Let's talk about the 5 wealthiest Americans.
Everybody eats. Everybody eats.
I ain't eating. You ain't eating? What you mean you ain't eating? You ain't making this paper, man? Everybody eat. I gotta eat, man.
You are listening to the Everybody Eats podcast. Now for your host, Mr. AJ Simmons.
Now, the reason why I want to do this video is because I think that we should be studying billionaires and seeing what their habits are and trying to make our habits reflect theirs as well, because there's a lot of millionaires in this country and they are to be respected and admired as well. However, one thing that I noticed as I've been studying some of the greats is that the billionaires seem to have more in common across the board than millionaires do, because most millionaires get their wealth and fortune in so many different ways that a lot of the information that they put out can be contradictory. But when you go to the billionaires, most of the time they're on par across the board. All right, so let's break it down. First off, I'm going to give you the top 5. I'm gonna give you the list real quick, and then I'm going to go over some things that I found that they all have in common. All right, number 1, we have Bill Gates. His net worth is $89.8 billion. And the source of that wealth comes from his company, Microsoft, all right? And they're a computer manufacturer as well as software company, all right? Now, Jeff Bezos at number 2. Net worth, $85.1 billion. He's the creator of Amazon. Amazon.com, that is. That's an e-commerce site for those who aren't aware. Number 3, Warren Buffett. Net worth $73.4 billion. He gets the source of his wealth from Berkshire Hathaway, which is a stock holding company. All right. Number 4, Mark Zuckerberg, who has a net worth of $65.6 billion. The biggest source of wealth for him is Facebook, a social media company, as you know. And number 5, Larry Ellison. His company is Oracle, which is a computer software company. All right. Now, off top, one thing that you should be able to see that jumps out at you out of those 5 people is, number 1, every single one of them except Warren Buffett has a company that deals with the tech industry. Okay. 4 out of 5 of these men are in the tech industry, all right? So what that should probably tell you is, if you really want to hit it big, then you may need to go into the tech field in some way, shape, or form, all right? Because all 5 of these guys, 4 out of these 5 of these guys are in the tech field, and they're in the tech field in different areas, okay? Because we got e-commerce, we got computer development and computer manufacturing, we got software development, and then we got social media as well. So it's a lot of different areas, but they're all in the tech industry of some sort, all right? Another thing that I noted was they all have real estate in their portfolio, and it's usually through a holding company, all right? So they have like a money manager or either some type of LLC or holdings company that owns their real estate for them in their portfolio, all right? The third thing that I noticed is they all started early. I didn't find too much on Larry Ellison about how early he started, but I do know that Bill Gates started when he was 20 years old. Warren Buffett was 11 when he first started an entrepreneurship with his vending machine business, which he ended up selling, I believe, when he was in his early 20s or right before he turned 20. Then he reinvested that money for the long term. Jeff Bezos started a camp with his girlfriend when he was a teenager, so he started early. Mark Zuckerberg started in high school with a software that he developed, which had him getting recruited by 2 very large companies. I think it was AOL and Yahoo. So he started early. So all of these things, and this is something that I've been speaking a lot about on my channel, is that you need to start early. Early is better. So a lot of times I'll be telling people like, hey, sometimes maybe you should skip college and just go straight into entrepreneurship. If you want to be an entrepreneur, like I told my cousin one time I was telling y'all about before, I had a young cousin. He was asking me if he needed to go to college, and because he don't want to go to college, he wanted to just go from high school and be an entrepreneur like I did. And I was telling him, look, if you're serious about being an entrepreneur, no, you don't need to go to college, because whether you pay for college with a student loan or whether you pay for college in cash, you're going to be wasting your money if you go on and you don't really know what you want to do with your life. Okay, because if you go for history and then you turn around and realize, you know what, I want to be in banking, that history degree is going to do nothing for you in the banking industry. So therefore, now you just have debt if you did student loans, and that's debt that don't go away. You can't file bankruptcy for student loans. Okay, there's no getting rid of student loans other than to pay them off or defer them till you die. All right, and you don't want to do that. And then if you pay cash for them, now you just wasted your money. All right, so I did want to point that they started out early. And then another thing that I noticed too, which is piggybacks right on what I said, was most of them dropped out of not high school, but college. A lot of them dropped out of college. Zuckerberg dropped out of college. Bill Gates dropped out of college. All right, so that's something that is not to say that education isn't important, but it is to say that you don't need a college degree to be successful or to be wealthy or rich. Okay, a lot of people like to say that, like to question other people's credentials about things just because they don't have a college degree. Well, 2 of the 5 richest people in the world dropped out of college. So what does that tell you? All right, now on the counter side of that, every single one of these guys on this list, according to my research, were scholars in their own respective right. They all got recruited to big top colleges, and they all were overachievers in school. All right, so except Warren Buffett, actually early on in school, he wasn't an overachiever, but he did as well go to a prestigious college. All right. Another thing that I noticed, they all read very often. They say Warren Buffett reads about 600 to 1,000 pages of books per day. And then Mark Zuckerberg says that he tries to read at least 50 books per year. So they all read very often. Bill Gates as well. Actually, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are very close friends. Some say they're best friends. And they trade different books to read amongst each other very often. And speaking of that, another thing that I notice about these guys is they hang around like-minded individuals. Larry Ellison actually had Steve Jobs as his photographer at his wedding. Okay, so, and then as I told y'all, Warren Buffett and Bill Gates actually hang out together very often. So a lot of these guys like to hang around each other, and like-minded people hang around like-minded people. So if you really want to be successful, evaluate your circle and look at the time that you're spending with certain people. And if you're spending your time with people who aren't on the same page as you, separate yourself. All right. So that's something else that I noticed about these 5 wealthy people. Another thing that I noticed is they started at home, or they started very, very humble. All right. Larry Ellison invested $1,200 in his first startup. All right. Warren Buffett, as you can see, invested for the long term, and 90% of his wealth was generated after he was 50 years old. So that means all the way up until he was 50, he wasn't even close to being as rich as he is today. All right, so that should tell you something. Same thing with Mark Zuckerberg. He's only 32, but he didn't make any money when he first started Facebook. As a matter of fact, he didn't even know how he was going to make money from Facebook. But he kept getting offers to be bought, and the only thing that he knew is if these people kept offering me this amount of money for what I have, I must have something very valuable, and I'm not going to sell. All right. Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos said that he didn't make any money from his company for 5 years. And as a matter of fact, he planned it that way, but he struggled to find investors because of that simple reason. People couldn't understand a plan that included not making any profit for an entire 5 years. So always think long term. All of these guys think long term. They look for the bigger picture, and they don't just sell out to the highest bidder as soon as a big offer comes their way. All right. Another thing that I noticed, they don't pay themselves a large salary. They say that Warren Buffett, according to my research here recently, they said that he only takes $100,000 salary per year. And before that, according to my memory, I remember him telling me that he only pays himself $1 salary per year. Here recently, I just researched, and Mark Zuckerberg only pays himself a $1 salary per year, simply because by law he has to pay himself at least a salary, so he pays himself $1 per year. Larry Ellison just decreased his salary from $1 million per year to $1 per year. Okay, and so you got to ask yourself, why are these guys paying themselves only $1 per year? And I'm pretty sure I know the answer, which is taxes, because the employee is taxed at the highest rate. All right, so you don't want to be an employee because they get taxed more than anybody else. So that's why I think that they're paying themselves a very low salary, and that way they could just receive their money in dividends. And dividends are taxed at a very lower rate than employee wages. All right, so notice the things and the habits that the billionaires are doing and see how you can implement them in your life. All right, so I just wanted to go over this quick list. This list wasn't really about showing who the top 5 people are in the world. Obviously, we know if anybody can do a simple Google search and see who the top 5 billionaires are. What this video was really to demonstrate the commonalities between them and how we can kind of mirror our lives to kind of adopt some of the habits that they have. Okay, and another thing too, before I go, that I did notice is that they all either got married or married several times, but they always kept a female presence in their lives, and they live frugal. They live frugal, all right? And with the exception of Larry Ellison, I think that they said Larry Ellison was a little bit more lavish, but in comparison to the amount of wealth that they've amassed over this time, they live very frugal, okay? So actually, Mark Zuckerberg drives a regular Acura, okay? He doesn't drive Bugatti, he doesn't drive a Benz, he drives an Acura, all right? He also drives a Volkswagen Beetle, I believe it is. But he drives a Volkswagen, he drives an Acura, you know what I mean? And they all keep it simple. Warren Buffett still lives in the same single family home in Omaha that he first bought, the very first home that he bought in Omaha. So these guys aren't walking around with bling all over them everywhere. You know what I mean? They're not tricking up on the latest fashion, any of that. You know what I mean? They're very frugal, they're very calculated, and they think long term. Okay, so I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, let me know and I'll start doing more videos just like this. Hopefully this was able to help you and you can apply this in your life. Till next time, thank y'all for waking up with me. This is AJ Simmons on the Everybody Eats podcast, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Thank you.